Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time on Joba in the Mouth, we're now talking to WFAN anchor, Sports Bash media host, and the greater Long Island writer, the one and only Peter Schwartz. Peter, what's up?
Hey, how you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Well, we're very happy to have you on. You're doing so many great things here on Long Island. The last time I saw you at Preston's induction as he was going, and he decided to go to Georgia. We're very happy to see Preston decide to go to one of the best schools in the country and has a chance to be something special. Long Islanders are excited to see this kid really develop and possibly to an NFL style of player, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about what's going on in New York sports. You've been a part of New York sports. I see you're wearing an Islanders hat. So let's go into the Jets and the Giants this weekend. And the New York Jets, to me, before Sunday Night Football, was really the more fun game to watch. Out of all the weekend games that I saw, that was the best game. It was close. It was back and forth. Aaron Rodgers returns to New York Jets world with the fans screaming and booing him. He had his thoughts and his stuff to the media after the game, but 4 touchdowns, over 200 yards. Your thoughts to the New York Jets at the end of the game, once again choking against Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers?
As a Jets fan, I'm disgusted. It's just, I mean, what's amazing to me is the amount of Jet fans, Jet media, and just people around the NFL that are throwing roses at the Jets for this game yesterday. It makes no sense to me. I mean, it was another loss. It was the same stuff. It was stupid penalties. It was mistakes. It was a turnover. I understand it was an exciting game, and I understand they should have won, but they didn't. So I'm not buying into this whole moral victory thing. Oh, it's different than it was before. They played good against a good defense. Makes no difference to me. I think both New York teams came up extremely disappointing yesterday, but both in different ways.
So speaking of not moral victories, Aaron Glenn was saying the same thing after the game. He doesn't believe in them either. What is your thoughts to Aaron Glenn as a head coach, and do you think he's a good culture guy from what you've seen the last couple months?
Well, I think he is so far from what we've seen in training camp and through the preseason, through the first game. He's saying all the right things, but now, let's see if he's true to his word. If he's going to say to people, well, if you're going to turn the ball over, you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to cost us games, you're not going to be here. So let's see by Wednesday if 𝐬𝐫𝐽𝐽 is still on this team. He had the huge, fumble on the kickoff, and that was maybe one of the biggest reasons that they lost that game yesterday. So let's see what happens. Let's see if there's really accountability this time. I know it's only one game, but you only get 17 of them. You can't afford to continue to let games slip away if you want to play meaningful football in November and December. So to me, I think the jury is still out. I believe in Aaron Glenn. I believe in the new regime. I just don't believe we're at that point yet where things have changed much from last year.
Yeah, I mean, for what both teams have done, do you think they're in the right direction? I mean, I know it's tough with just 1 week, but do you think they're headed in the right direction, or you're not buying any of it? You need to see more.
Well, I think in certain areas, I think they are in the right direction. I mean, they've got some pieces to have a successful team down the road. I'll tell you actually, there were 2 things that were good out of the game yesterday. One was Justin Fields, because from the time the Jets signed him, everybody was mocking the decision. He can't throw. Looked like he could throw yesterday, and he obviously can run. So to me, he was the bright spot that came out of the game. The other bright spot are the 5 guys in front of him. The offensive line, I thought, for the most part, did a really good job protecting him, giving him lanes to run. So I think in that respect, yes, offensively, it's definitely a step in the right direction, but we're still just seeing, we've heard for years now how great this Jets defense is with all these great players, and I still haven't seen it yet. The secondary is still soft after Sauce Gardner. They've got some holes to fill there. Quincy Williams is a good player, but he makes a critical penalty yesterday on the hit out of bounds. So for me, from a Jet standpoint, there are signs of them going in the right direction, but until you start racking up wins, I don't know how you can really throw roses at that.
I'm not throwing roses. And by the way, we are talking to WFAN anchor, Sports Bash media, as always, host and greater Long Island writer Peter Schwartz. He's been doing so many great things all over Long Island and New York. He's a great writer, a great voice all over the social media world. And here's the thing. I'll go back to the New York Jets because I am a Jet fan. I also root on the Eagles. Everybody that listens to this show knows all about that because over the years, Donovan McNabb was my favorite player. But the Jets, to me, there were a lot of mistakes, especially in the secondary. But there were a lot of things that I liked. Quentin Williams looked lighter. He was the best player on the field all game long. Everybody keeps talking about how great T.J. Watt is, and he's sensational. Quentin Williams was the best defensive player on both sides of both teams. He was sensational. Will McDonald, everybody was complaining that Joe Douglas went after him at 15. He had 2 sacks, almost had 3 sacks in a game. This is again going into a new season, showing you 15 pounds, put on 15 pounds. He's playing 3 downs now, and he's stopping the run. I saw a couple of times he was stopping the run. Jermaine Johnson's back. There was a lot of bright spots. Sherwood looked good. I mean, there was a lot of things that you could like about this front seven and this defense. It's just the secondary. Stevens, I don't know why the Jets brought him in from Baltimore. He was brutal. Michael Carter, I mean, what the hell was he? Was he even in the game? Was his head in the game? Sauce, he made some mistakes against DK Metcalf, but Metcalf did not look as good as Aaron Glenn was saying that he was during the during the post game in the media talk. So I didn't think anything of it. I think you're right. Justin Fields really stood out to me. And obviously the front five, if they could play like that, and if Elijah Vera-Tucker comes back next year, the talent that they have in that line with Membu and then Fashanu, who was sensational, I thought it was fun to watch. But what stood out to me on the other side was Aaron Rodgers. Now, Aaron Rodgers had 4 touchdowns. He had over 240 yards, and he was sitting there, and he was talking to the media. And Peter, you've been there. You've been in those media rooms before, and you've asked questions to guys like Aaron Rodgers. And this guy, no matter what, his cockiness, his personality, and I like Aaron Rodgers. I stick up for him. I stuck up for him for years over there in Green Bay because I think his 10-year stint is probably the best I've ever seen on any team and any quarterback. But when he went out there and attacked the executives and the Jets brass and saying that the Jets didn't make the right decision and that the Jets disrespected him. And meanwhile, the Jets, he says he wanted to do things face-to-face. The Jets invited him to speak to them face-to-face because they didn't pay for his airfare. And then he sat in the room with the new GM and Aaron Glenn and ownership, and they said they don't need him anymore. He's butthurt. I don't get it. I don't know why he's attacking anybody. Just play the goddamn game. Am I right or wrong here?
Well, I think you can look at it both ways. First of all, you go back a little bit. I wanted the Jets to bring Aaron Rodgers back. I thought it would be the smart decision. If you look back at his numbers last year, and some people look at me like I have 5 heads when I say this, but if you look at Aaron Rodgers' body of work last year, he had one of the best statistical seasons by a quarterback in Jets history. And I know that bar is not set very high when it comes to quarterbacks in Jets history, but look at his numbers from last year. He played all 17 games. He put up good numbers. I would have brought him back. I would have drafted a quarterback and let him tutor the quarterback for a year. But the Jets decided they wanted to go in a different direction, a different culture. And here's the thing, too. I understand his feelings were hurt, that he wanted to come back. The new regime didn't want him. But you have to understand something, too. The Jets let him do whatever he wanted to do. They brought in all his buddies. They brought in probably the worst offensive coordinator in the history of the NFL, in Nathaniel Hackett. They let him bring that guy in, and he was an utter disaster. So it's not like the Jets for 2+ years, treated him poorly. They basically let him run the asylum. But look, if you're a competitor and you're a professional, I get it. You went back in there, you just you wiped the floor with as far as your statistics were concerned with the team that didn't want you back. So I can understand where he's coming, but I think some of it's a little off base because the Jets did basically give him the keys to the kingdom last year.
Here's the problem. Alan Lazard, who was healthy, was a healthy scratch. That just tells you right there the Jets are paying this man not to be on a football field. So
I don't know why he's still on the roster. I mean, if he's not going to play, just let him go. And listen, I know you're going to probably have to spend some money to let him go, but if he's not going to be part of your roster, not be part of your team, then I would just let him go.
It was embarrassing to me. And again, Aaron Rodgers is a person I again look up to. I think he's a sensational talent. He came out in the offseason talking about him getting married to a woman named Brittany. Nobody's seen her. I made a joke that he probably married his hand and said that he named her Brittany. I mean, this is something that Aaron Rodgers likes to do. He likes to, spit out crazy crap.
And he said it was a couple months. It wasn't just like it happened. It was like a couple months.
Yeah, nobody's seen this woman. Nobody even seen pictures of this woman, but he's married and he's got
a 𝐬𝐻𝐫𝐽𝐻𝐿.
I have no idea. I have no idea. Nobody's seen any woman. Even some of the Jet players that I know that I've spoken to off air says that nobody's met this woman that he's married to. Nobody was invited to this wedding, and he said he never married. It was in front of a justice of the peace. So where was this marriage, and who's this question mark? Who's this woman? That's what I want to know. That's my interest here. Who the hell is she? Josh Allen gets married to a movie star. He was dating Danica Patrick, and Danica Patrick dropped the hammer on him on a podcast. I mean, seriously, it's embarrassing.
Most athletes, when they get married, you kind of know who the significant other is, and generally speaking, it's somebody else who's famous as well. But listen, that's Aaron Rodgers. Look, that's what the Jets signed up for when he came here a couple of years ago. So you can't, I can't have any pity for the Jets because of what happened. Because look, he chose to be here. That's why I wanted him back. Like he gave up more money elsewhere to come play for the Jets. So this whole idea of booing him and holding this grudge against him, I don't get it. But from that standpoint, I can understand how he felt after that game yesterday.
So shifting to the Giants, we talked about it before you came on. Brian Daboll and Malik Neighbors getting involved in a sideline scuffle. Brian Daboll obviously wins Coach of the Year his first year, and the last 3 years has really been a downfall. Maybe kind of turning into Matt Nagy with the Bears, which is a bad side. What are your thoughts to that whole sideline outburst with the two of them?
Yeah, it's obviously it's not a good look, and the Giants are kind of a mess right now. And I think the only thing that really will salvage the season for them, and I think as far as Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll are concerned, that the only thing that may give them a shot at sticking around after this year is that they have to go to Jackson Dart as their quarterback. I mean, there is nothing to be gained by letting Russell Wilson make another start or even take another snap for them. Would you see how bad that offense was looking yesterday? And I know, the preseason is the preseason. You can't put too much stock in it, but when you watch Jackson Dart play in the preseason, you kind of get the feeling that he's got it and he knows what he's doing. And at this point, I know you wanted to try to be optimistic and let Russell Wilson play for a few weeks and give Jackson Dart a chance to watch. But from what I saw yesterday, and if you're Brian Daboll and your future is in doubt, you drafted this guy to be your quarterback. I think he's got to play sooner rather than later. And maybe it's not this week, but it's got to be within the first 5 weeks of the season because otherwise, I think the Giants are going to go in another direction on the sideline again.
Well, we were talking about that earlier, and I was like, Errol said 5 to 6 weeks, and
week 5.
I was like, do you think it's going to be sooner, or are they going to let it? And you kind of went with the 5. Why do you think it's going to be at least 5? And Errol, you can chime in on this too, but you don't go to him early. Errol kind of was like, you don't throw him in the fire right away to let him burn. But if this is going to be the way that Russ shows it, do you not go to him earlier? I mean, I would, but that's what the hell do I know?
Well, I think the idea is that you want to try and win a couple of games. I think the Giants, as an organization, want to try and at least, show that they can win a couple of games. But from what you saw during, training camp and what you saw yesterday from Russell Wilson, I just don't know if you'll have a chance to win any games. It's not a great schedule. And at some point, it's got to click in. Listen, we're not going to be successful. Russell Wilson is not – he's not doing right now what Kurt Warner did for the Giants when they brought him in to tutor Eli Manning. Obviously, the Giants had a winning record when they made the switch that year in 2004. Eli Manning came in. The Giants lost a couple of games in a row, but they still had a winning season. In this case, I just don't see where Russell Wilson – is going to be any kind of a factor in helping the Giants win a couple of games. So I don't know if they want to wait till after this week or next week, but somewhere here, you've got to at least give the fans, something to watch. You've got to at least give your head coach, his staff, the general manager, the front office, give them a chance to show that they made the right decision in Jackson Dart, and maybe he's the guy that can lead them down the road, and maybe that's what brings this regime back next year. Otherwise, they're going to have to blow this up again after this year.
No Jameis Winston? I'd rather see Jameis Winston. I'm just kidding.
They should trade him now, too. They should just trade him.
Trade him to ESPN because that's
you can use a backup quarterback.
I think they should wait a little bit. I think that, to me, right now, the Giants put this kid in a position to fail. He will fail. I think give him what the Giants did. They had a winning record with Kurt Warner, and they decided to push away from Kurt Warner and go with Eli Manning. I think you give Russell Wilson at least 5 weeks. Get this team settled down. And then go to the young quarterback and see what you have with the young quarterback. I think he's going to be great. I love what I saw during the preseason. But again, that's not a regular season game. You're playing against everybody's number one. So we'll see what Jackson Dart's going to do when he's running for dear life when his offensive line can't block for you. Because it looked really, really bad against the Commanders. Really bad.
Yeah, I just think he's got some moxie. I just think he looks like someone that can come in and give this team a spark. Maybe he can create some instant chemistry with Malik Neighbors. And a lot of times when you bring the rookie quarterback in, the defense and the offensive line will play a little bit better in front of you because, oh my God, we got a rookie quarterback. So that's what I think it's got to be sooner rather than later, but I don't think it's going to be this week.
We are talking to WFAN anchor, Sports Bash media host, and Greater Long Island writer Peter Schwartz. Peter, let's get to the Yankees because the Yankees needed to go into the off-season during the weekend and play very, very well against the Blue Jays, and they did that. They showed up against the Blue Jays and played well. Their top pitchers, Freese, played well. Everybody that needed to play well, they played well. What do you think has been the problem all season long for the New York Yankees? Why have the Yankees been up and down all season long? It's not really injury. We all know what Volpe is. He's been an absolute bust. But why do you think they've been up and down all season long?
I don't think there's any one thing you can put your finger on. I think it's a lot of things. I think it's that lineup, especially before they made some of the moves. The lineup was very inconsistent. There would be a game they'd score 10 runs, and the next game, they could probably go 5 games without scoring. So there was that problem. There was some inconsistency in the starting rotation. The biggest problem to me was the bullpen. The bullpen was kind of a disaster, and to a certain extent, there's still some holes in it. I don't know if Yankee fans completely trust Devin Williams in a big spot at this point, but they seem to have gotten it together a little bit, especially in the last 2 games against Toronto. But there are a number of things. Look, I've tried to defend Aaron Boone for the last few years because, in my opinion, he's obviously, hearing things from the analytics department because that's the only way to explain some of the moves that have been made, his in-game decisions. But you can question some of those moves that have been made. The lineup, as a guy who's red hot, 5 straight games has a hit. Now you're sitting him in the 6th game. So there have been some things that have happened that just you scratch your head at. But it certainly looks like in the last couple of weeks, the Friday night game against Toronto aside, that they're starting to get it here, and obviously they're pushing Toronto here a little bit now down to 2 games. If the Yankees didn't win that series over the weekend, I think you could have probably kissed their chances of winning the division goodbye. But now they're right there. They're playing well. They're down 2 games. They've created a little bit of a cushion for the first wild card. At worst case scenario, you'll host all 3 games of the wild card round. But I think the Yankees see the prize right now in front of them, and they're 2 games. They're within an earshot of Toronto, and I think you're going to see them go balls to the wall the last couple of weeks of the season here and make a real big push because Toronto's definitely reeling. Toronto's on their heels right now.
Yeah. So the MVP debate: Aaron Judge and Cal Raleigh. Aaron Judge hasn't played great since he's come back, but he tied Yogi Berra's record just recently. Where do you stand on that?
Well, look, he obviously missed a lot of time this year because of the injury, and it's kind of scary to see him go back in the outfield because the last thing you want to do is get his bat back and then have him get hurt in the field. I think it's I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I think it's got to be inevitable that Aaron Judge has got to learn how to play first base because I think you want to try and keep his bat in the lineup as much as possible. And Stanton, obviously, you want to try and have some flexibility, put him in the outfield, have him at DH a little bit. You want Judge to DH a little bit. But I think going forward here, I think the Yankees, maybe not this year, but maybe in the offseason, they have to start thinking about, having Aaron Judge get some games at first base, just so he doesn't have to run so much in the outfield and ruin getting hurt risk getting hurt, because you need his bat in the lineup. And he's obviously had some major injuries so far in his career. And I think if the Yankees want to get as many good years as possible out of this contract, they have to try and protect him a little bit and keep him out of the outfield.
Yeah, I've been saying that for probably a year or two. Yeah, he's a great outfielder, don't get me wrong, but he's not the smallest of individuals either. So, and we've seen kind of his injury track record. But it for me, it's like exactly what you said. It's like at least get him a couple games, give him a little break, but still be in there. And because some guys just can't, they're not great DHs. And if you look at his numbers, like as a DH, because he's so used to playing every day, that it takes a rare bird to be a great DH. And all the really good ones have come out and said that. But for me, there's a lot of holes. I don't know what the hell you do with Volpe. I mean, if you look at his numbers, he's literally last in the league in everything.
Well, you got to make Caballero the shortstop. They have to do that.
I mean, I don't know. Do you make that move now going into what it is? You're so close. And mind you, you play with the holes that you got because it's gotten you to where you are. And are you going to have that late, I guess, with Caballero, be able to do the things that he can do? And then, okay, something happens and now you got to bring in they're in a tough spot with him because of how they've praised him and the fact that he just did win a Gold Glove 2 years ago. And now it's just, you got every armchair quarterback and, guru that knows how to throw and his mechanics, and he's not putting his body weight and this, that, and another thing. And it's entertaining to read, and it keeps me entertained. Usually when, I'm on the crapper, it's about the only time that it makes sense to me.
You better wash your hands.
Oh yeah, always.
I got the bubble guts.
But yeah, sometime. Well, it's watching the Yankees. I've had
I
plenty
didn't
of
take
bubble
shit.
guts. But the only one you can really count on in the back in the bullpen, Cruz and his splitter. I don't know if he knows what it's doing. I actually was talking about that the other day with a bunch of people. I think he just throws it and it just kind of does whatever he wants. He's been really good, and obviously Bednar with what he's done. But other than that, you got an iffy Luke Weaver, and you can't throw Devin Williams out there in big situations anymore. It's just, and then, he's like, I was making good pitches, and they were borderline calls. This was like last week when he was complaining, but he's going to have to, and there's not enough time for him to get back, high leverage situations. Is he going to be forced into them sometimes? Yes, he's going to have to be, just because Booney's going to rely on those guys that he can count on. And there's a lot of holes. I know I've said this. You gain traction at the right time of the year, taking momentum into it, and they're doing that right now. Obviously, in a 4-2 with the last two teams in the Astros and the Blue Jays, which is huge. But now it's after we've seen that they are great at having two great series and then just go absolutely lay an egg in their next one. So I think this next one is just as big as these other ones to make sure that they can keep the momentum going in, because they can see they're only two back and have separated themselves in the wild card to be able to host. So I think this one is big going into the second half of September.
And I think the biggest thing also right now for the Yankees is it looks like their starting rotation is coming into shape here. Obviously, Max Fried slumped a little bit, and now he's back on track, and we've seen Rodon come up with some good performances. And until Friday night, Cam Schlittler has been outstanding. And look, it's going to happen. He's a young pitcher, and he just couldn't put the Blue Jays away with 2 strikes on Friday night. He'll get it. He'll figure it out. But I think from a starting standpoint, I think the Yankees are in good shape going into the playoffs. You probably can then take Will Warren and move him into a long relief situation. It'll strengthen the bullpen in the playoffs going to 3 starters. So I think there's really some good signs for the Yankees going into the playoffs.
We are talking to WFAN anchor, Sports Bash media host, and the Greater Long Island writer, Peter Schwartz. Peter, the New York Mets, they've had problems pitching all season long, back and forth. But since Nolan McLean, who just lost his first game as a starter here in the majors today, and Tong and some of the young starters that they have, I think the Mets can start to fill their rotation when the playoffs start. I'm not going to trust any of these pitchers. David Peterson probably has been their best starter all season long, besides some of the youngsters. Where do you see the Mets going when they get into the playoffs? Do you see McClain being their number one guy, then David Peterson, then Tong? Do you go with the younger guys, or do you bet on Senga, you bet on one of these other guys, which has not been successful all season long?
Well, I don't know how much in the picture Senga is going to be since he accepted the demotion to the minor league. So we'll see if he can get his act straightened out. But right now, if you're the Mets, I mean, your most reliable pitcher right now, tonight aside, has been McClain. He's been outstanding. He showed some great poise. I was with my family at the game last week when he pitched that great game against the Phillies. So he's looked like an ace so far. And the Mets' young pitchers have looked really good. Even yesterday, Brandon Sproat took a no-hitter into the sixth inning yesterday. So I think the Mets, just like the Yankees, I think the Mets may have that starting situation figured out. It's a question now of how deep those pitchers can go and how much they can rely on some of those arms in the bullpen. Senga comes back. There may not be a spot for him in the postseason rotation. They may have to use him out of the bullpen if he can get that forkball straightened out down in Syracuse. So I think the Mets offensively a lot better, obviously, in the last few weeks since Vientos started hitting. I think the rotation is better now. The big question, and I know Joba can relate to this, but that bullpen's got to come into into a better situation right now for the Mets to have success in the playoffs.
So before they get to their last two questions, I want to go over what we were talking about yesterday, Peter, with Errol and I are very close with Gerald Filardi,
yes.
Obviously with the New York Dragons. You were discussing something happened with them. So just break down what happened with them. It was a very unfortunate situation that we've seen with a lot of these different leagues.
Yeah, well, I mean, just the backstory to that is I was the radio play-by-play announcer for the original New York Dragons in the Arena League from 2001 to 2008. And then when the league shut down for a year and came back, the Dragons did not. So I had waited 17 years. So that was the best job I ever had, was doing play-by-play for the Dragons. I got to travel, got to call football games, got to meet a whole lot of great people. I got married during those 8 years. We had our first child during those 8 years. So that, to me, was the best job I've ever had. I waited 17 years for that team to come back, and in December, I get approached by this, representative of a new league, and I go to work for them doing some consulting, and then they offer me the GM job for the Long Island team, and that Long Island team subsequently becomes the New York Dragons. I'm like, here it was, the best time of my life professionally years ago, and now I'm running the team that I was the play-by-play announcer for. So, so I was pretty excited about it. I hired a great front office, hired Coach Filardi to be our head coach, and everything was going in the right direction. We were doing great with ticket sales and sponsorships. We were doing really good, and we created a really good buzz all over Long Island. We had good coverage from Newsday and News 12 and Greater Long Island, who I write for, and even Boomer and Geo on FAN would give me a lot of props every now and then for everything that was going on. But there was a point where things started to get a little bit sketchy. We were never able to get into our offices at Nassau Coliseum because the league didn't have insurance. We were not able to get certain things to proceed with a season. There was a point where they missed deadlines on equipment and the field and other things. And it was a point where the owner of the league, this is unbelievable, the owner of the league actually came to us and said, "Do you think you can call a local high school and ask them if we can borrow their helmets?" And I'm like, I swear, it was a true story. There's just there's no way. I mean, this is professional football, and they said they bought a used field for us for the Coliseum. It was utilized by this team in Beaumont, Texas, and I said, "Well, what?" And they're playing in a league that was playing a season before our season was supposed to start, and I'm looking online. I'm like, Beaumont is like 8-1. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to host playoff games. So I asked somebody with the league, I'm like, we're supposed to get this field. They're going to have a home playoff game. I called them last week. They're going to have a home playoff game. Oh, no, we're picking up that field next week. I'm like, how are you picking up their field if their season is still going on? I was like, all these things were just going on. And then the final straw was middle of May. We call it the Mother's Day Massacre. My wife and my younger son and I would go out shopping that morning, and my phone, the whole ride out from where we live in Wanta out to the Tanger outlets, my phone in my pocket is buzzing. I'm like, how many people are calling me? I'm not a mother. Like, why are people calling me on Mother's Day? we get to Deer Park in the Tanger outlets, and I pick up my phone, and it's a series of imbecilic emails sent out by the owner. And I don't know how they just came through, but they were sent out in the middle of the night, and he was questioning all these things we were doing. And it was just, he sounded like he was a little off. So at that point that day, the three of us in the front office all were under the opinion that this was never going to happen. So we kind of mapped out our exit on June 2nd. We all resigned at the exact same time. We hit send on our email at the exact same time to resign because we figured there was no way this was going to happen. We didn't have a field. We didn't have uniforms. We didn't have down markers. We didn't have any kind of funding to be able to get programs made. We had no merch to sell the fans. Like we had nothing. And we just knew it was not going in the right direction. And sure enough, it didn't. And people are still trying to get their money back.
Holy.
Yeah. I'm kind of like, they're trying to get their money back. Did they not prepare for, like, it didn't just sneak up on them? I'm like, I was trying to come back with a follow-up, but I'm like, how or why?
The issue then became was that, like, if you bought season tickets and you bought a sponsorship, you deserve to get your money back, and the guy hasn't given his money back yet.
Oh, my God.
And then they actually, and this is the other thing, too, our home opener at the Coliseum was supposed to be on Saturday, June 14th. Mm-hmm. They never actually canceled the season. They never actually informed anybody that there was not going to be a season. And unless you read the article, like the day that we resigned, I did an interview with Newsday. I did an interview with the Post. I went on Boomer and Geo the next morning. I think the Patch did something with me. But unless you read any of those articles, unless you heard me on Boomer and Geo, unless you follow me on social media, you have no idea that we all resigned. And I remember saying to my wife, I'm like, people live in a bubble. Not everybody listens to WFAN. Not everybody reads Newsday. People do live in a bubble in their everyday life. Mm-hmm. And my younger son, Jared, said, hey, Dad, June 14th, we were going to be at Arena Football anyway. And there's the other league, the Arena Football 1. They have a team in Albany. And I know the guy who runs that team. And they wound up winning the championship of that league this year. And my son says, why don't we just go to Albany that day and go see the game? And we did. And we drive there. We check into our hotel. And before we leave to go back to the arena, and I remember saying to my wife, I'm like, I am going to get text messages. And I'm going to get phone calls from people who think there's a game at Nassau Coliseum tonight. And sure enough, 5 o'clock, this guy calls my phone, and I recognize the name because he was a season ticket holder. I sold him his season tickets. And I'm like, I let it go to voicemail. He texts me about 5 minutes later. It says, hey, Pete, we're standing outside. There's about 60 or 70 of us outside the Nassau Coliseum. We're trying to get in for the game, and it looks like the place is closed. And I'm like, I knew this was going to happen. There are people people were tailgating outside the Coliseum thinking they were going in to go see a football game. And I had this, because I knew it was going to happen. People were going to inquire about what happened. I created this little screenshot. Hey, I don't work for the Entertainment Football Association or the New York Dragons anymore. Please contact this person who was the owner of the league. And just to me, very, very John Spano-like how this guy ran. I don't think there was ever any intent of them to actually play one down. People are calling to get their season ticket money back, and he's claiming that, I don't see any payment of yours. So he's like, it was a big, giant mess, and it was a giant waste of 5 months of my time.
I want to apologize because I know you were excited. I know Filardi was excited. Gerald's a good friend of ours, and we spoke off air, and I said, "What the hell's going on, man?" He was trying to explain it to me. I was like, "What?" I mean, this story does look like this sounds like a Spano, and it should be a 30 for 30 story.
And you know what? Well, first of all, listen, By the way, if anybody wants to produce the 30 for 30 or the Netflix special, I'm open to negotiation on it because there is some pending litigation going on, so there's not a lot of other things I can go into, but there's going to be something written about this, and I felt bad because I brought two people into the front office who I've become very, very good friends with. So if there was any kind of silver lining in the whole thing, I created two great friendships. And even the third one with Coach Filardi, I really didn't have a relationship with him. Actually, it was a mutual friend of ours that connected us during the interview process.
Right.
And I was on the phone with him for an hour, and I knew he was going to be my head coach. And I felt so freaking pissed that we did not get to see this through because we had two open tryouts. We thought we brought in some really good football players that we thought were going to make Long Island proud. Our intent going into this whole thing, had it been real, was to try and create a very, very local team with local players. I hired a local coach. The three of us in the front office were all Long Island people. And this comes off of the New York Riptide lacrosse team leaving the Coliseum last year. And their last year in the Coliseum, they played 4 years. The last year in the Coliseum, you think about how big lacrosse is here on Long Island. The Riptide had 0 Long Island players on the roster their last year that they played at the Coliseum. And when I got the GM job, I'm like, we have to do stuff to get people to come to the games. You have to create local interest. A lot of people on Long Island want to see their own. If your kid played high school football or college football on Long Island, like that's what you want to go to see. And Coach Filardi bought into that. But had it been real, we were going in that direction. We had some really good players signed up that were ready to go to training camp. Oh, by the way, we couldn't get the money to pay the deposit for SUNY Farmingdale to get their field for training camp.
I just like how you say it, had it been real.
Well, you know what, I say that half joking, but like Monopoly money. They wanted us to barter for everything. Like what we needed. I'll give you an example. So you go to these like street fairs and stuff like that, and you see the local teams like the Islanders always have a tent at these street fairs at the train stations at field whatever it might be. Like I wanted to get like all that crap that you would come home with in a bag, like the back of the phone. You'd hold your credit cards in the back of the phone and the pens and little notebooks and T-shirts and everything like that. And the guy wouldn't let us buy any of it. He said, try to trade for it. I'm like, dude, this is Long Island. I mean, things are expensive here. Like you can't. And I, you know what? I gave it a shot because I was working for the guy, and I said, let me call around. I call people at the Long Island Ducks. I call people at the Islanders. I call people at the Jets and the Giants who I know. I'm like, do you guys barter for your promotional items? No, we pay for them. Like, we might be able to barter to get like a little bit off of it, but you have to pay for it. Like they literally wanted me to barter for everything, and to top that off, I bartered a radio deal. Our games were going to be broadcast on Nassau Community College's radio station, which, if you were to pay them for the airtime for our 8 home games, our 8 games and 2 playoff games, so for 10 games, it would have cost us like $11,000 if we just paid for the airtime, right? I bartered it with them down to nothing because the students were going to do the games.
Right.
We were going to give them tickets. We were going to give them advertising on the dashboards and the programs. It was a complete wash. It was exactly what this guy wanted. I got this great deal for nothing. And that was one of the imbecilic emails that I got on Mother's Day morning. Hey, I got a problem with this radio deal that you did. What? We're not making any money on it. I'm like, well, you told me to barter everything. I just bartered you an $11,000 radio deal, and you got a problem. Well, I don't care what you did. I want my attorney to look at it. And it was this whole thing went on and on and on. And what went my ultimate takeaway from this whole thing, the 5 months from the end of December to June 2nd when we resigned, the 5 months, whatever it was that I spent on this job, I was selling and promoting a product that wasn't real. It was never real. And that's I know why you're laughing, and there is a certain amount of comedy to this whole thing. But like it literally was like a real life Music Man. Did you ever see the movie The Music Man or the Broadway show?
I'm gonna have a headache.
There is
I'm
no
laughing
school
so much.
band. The whole thing at the end was nonsense. So I was literally selling a product that wasn't real, and I feel awful for the people who bought season tickets, who bought sponsorships, fans that media outlets that gave us coverage. I want all those people to get
their money back,
get restitution.
Of course,
I want them to get their money back. There was a sponsor that bought a spot. They invited me to lunch. I met them at a Chamber of Commerce meeting near the beginning of this whole process, like back in February. And they wanted to be a part of it. They wanted to be a sponsor. The guy went to games with his kids years ago, the original Dragons. And they take me out to lunch and they said, we want to make a $10,000 investment in the team. And so they got a suite and they got tickets and they got a program and they got a dashboard. I gave them everything for $10,000. I gave them whatever they wanted. Later on, right before we resigned, the owner of the league goes behind my back and calls the owner of that company and basically screws him for $50,000 more to get him to invest in the whole league. So now this company is out $60,000 to this madman. And
was this dude pocketing the money or what?
He's got to be doing that. He's doing something with the money.
He's out. They paid the original $10,000 that I sold him on, and then the owner. And the reason why I say he went behind my back because I had it in my contract that I got a commission if I brought an investor into the league. So he went behind my back to my client, got them to pay $50,000 investment in the league. I get screwed out of the commission. Wow. But it was. I wish that owner of that company would have called me. At that point, I knew we were gone. At that point, I knew it wasn't going to happen. So I just wish the guy had said to me, "Hey, Peter," the owner called me and said, "Hey, would you like to be an investor in the league?" I would have said, "Run for the hills."
Well, Peter, I want to apologize, but you
didn't do anything.
You pretty much squared everything away. I mean, everything. Anybody that wants to know about what happened with the Dragon story, well, ladies and gentlemen, Peter Schwartz just gave us 30 minutes of his time on explaining every single thing that happened with this owner, this league, and this debacle. But listen, we love you, man, and you're doing such a great job right now. I remember listening to a WFAN. We kind of interacted over the years, and you're doing such a great job right now with Sports Bash Media and Greater Long Island. And
Joba's going to be on my show tomorrow.
Yes, he is. He told me. He spoke to me.
Has that ever happened where you're a guest on somebody's podcast at night, and then that guy is a guest on your podcast the next day?
I don't think so. I've never heard of anything like that.
I don't think I've done that, no.
Well, and by the way, Joba, we'll talk about this tomorrow, too. I'm still pissed at the way the Yankees handled you.
No.
You and 10 million other people.
And Joba, which Joba mentions every single show. So
it'll be in my book, Peter. It'll be in my book.
It'll be in his book.
We were all, as a Yankee fan base, we were all pumped up because we heard, and you guys do the show with him. You know the story. Like it was like the Yankees went out of their way to alert people that they were going to bring Joba up and he was going to be a huge part of the bullpen. And he was unbelievable. He was lights out. And then back and forth to the starter, to the bullpen. I'm like, we had a great thing in you as a relief pitcher. You were awesome in the World Series in 2009. I don't know what the Yankees were thinking with that, but we'll talk more about it.
Well, you know what? Jeff Nelson's been on our show, and Jeff Nelson thought he would be a better starter than a bullpen guy. They should have just started him. But that's a whole nother story. You can get into it with Joba. Joba's looking good. He's looking fit. He's the fittest he's ever been, even when he was a player. So Joba lost some weight. So you still
get somebody out?
Well,
can you get somebody out?
Joba's got a workout plan. Maybe he's planning to do some kind of...
I still play long toss with my son, so maybe not as long, and it takes me a little bit longer to get going, but no, it's still there.
Okay.
Well, we got a bet, so we're going to be working on this bet. Maybe he'll talk about that on your show, but one of these days it's going to happen. He's shaking his head. He's licking his lips. So, anyways,
can we interest you in the Long Island Ducks maybe for an inning?
Oh yeah, I might have to do that. I think one of our other guys, Nick Goody.
Nick Goody.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
iconic.
Yes.
I'm one of their backup PA announcers. I'm doing their game tomorrow night. I would like nothing better than to introduce you coming out of the bullpen.
Hey, but can this not be like your last deal? Can I actually get paid to do it?
No. That team's been around for 25 years.
Okay.
That team's been around for. They're one of the most successful independent minor league franchises in the.
Trust me, I know. I've heard of them. I know who they are. I'm just saying, if I'm going to do it, I don't do it for free.
No, Bob. Listen, I'll give you Frank Bolton's phone number. You give him a call, like, "Hey, it's Joba." They'll say, like, "When can you be here?"
Perfect.
They employed the good one. How could you not think they're a
That's
respectable
true.
team?
Actually, Goody was telling me when we were driving, when we were on our trip, he told me that he was paying to pitch. So when he was on the Ducks, he was like, it was like I was paying to pitch. It was like I wasn't making any money. I was just enjoying the opportunity to pitch for the Ducks.
They've had major leaguer after major leaguer come through that whole league. You know, whether they're at the end of their careers trying to get back, or they just wanted to hang on and play a little bit more. It's been outstanding to watch that team play for 25 years.
The Goody. Anyways, Peter, we really appreciate you. Keep up the good work. We'll get you on the show again soon. We really appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Hopefully, by that point, the Dragon League owner is wearing an orange jumpsuit at that point.
Well, we'll stone him. We'll set him up in the back of the wall. We'll start throwing stuff. We'll have Joba stone him.
There you go.
I mean,
He's in.
We'll have him get attacked by midges.
As long as he gets paid for
I'd
it.
rather throw balls at him.
Yes.
There you go.
As long as he gets paid for it now, Peter. He's got to get paid.
Yes.
So,
I'll take care of it, I promise.
anyways, Peter, we really appreciate the time, buddy.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks, Job. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yep, we'll see you tomorrow.
Peter Schwartz, ladies and gentlemen, WFAN anchor, Sports Bash Media, and great Long Island writer. Great interview. Gave us his take on the Long Island Dragons, and boy, oh boy, it was just an absolute
What a
world.
debacle that sounds like.
I can't believe that. It definitely, if I could reach out right now for 30 for 30 and ESPN, I would definitely link them up. That is a story that made absolutely no sense. It was a whirlwind. And I know Gerald Filardi, and he was telling me the story. I was like, Gerald, I don't get this. But explain this story to me. And he was explaining it. And now he explained it very, very well what was going on. This guy was just full of you-know-what. That's what he was. And he was just trying to barter and get everything for free to open up a league so he can take businesses' money to build whatever he was building, an empire behind it. It was a Spano. It was absolutely what Spano did with the New York Islanders.
But the way Peter said it is basically just one of those things where he's like, let me take their money, and he had no plans on doing anything with it. Like, and think about all the time that people probably spent and, like, you know, wasn't getting paid. Like, when he said it, I wanted to come in and say something other than the dog was barking. I wanted to punt him. But just kidding. That's a joke, people. That doesn't happen.
Animal cruelty.
You could send the dog after
Anchorman.
Yeah, he punted Baxter. I'm in a glass case of emotion.